Hey guys, and welcome to Ozzie Reviews, and welcome to June Q&A. Now guys, if you want to be a part of this series, as I always remind people, you need to be a supporter via Patreon. So this is this month's questions. Let's get straight into them. So I'll start off with what's been happening for the month. Now we've had quite a few unique and different reviews at the time of doing this filming. You guys on Patreon would have already seen it because obviously the reviews come out there sooner. But I've done my first UTV review, okay, so utility vehicle. And it was a real blast doing it. And I think it's pretty applicable to obviously, farming and obviously hunting, shooting, that sort of thing. So I'm going to look at starting to go into a few more of them if the opportunity arises, because I think they'll be fairly well received. We've also had an update with obviously all the Ozzie Reviews shooting bags. Now, my actual branding iron for that, because as most people you should remember anyway, the actual logo of mine gets branded into the leather on the actual gun bag. So that actually gets made here, the branding iron. So they've got that. Then obviously the Australian made oil, skin and wool and etc. that goes into the bags. Being shipped over to Fiji at their assembly plant, and then it's got to come back. So it's about a 4-week turnaround from now at the time of doing this review for it to actually get to Fiji. Then they've got to make it all. So due to COVID, I'm told that a lot of stuff is going via sea cargo instead of air now because there's a lot of delays and it's extremely expensive to do it. So hopefully by then there may be some restrictions lifted and then they can air freight it back. But if not, it's going to be sea freight coming back, which is another, 4 odd weeks for it to get back here. So yeah, that's where I say there's that minimum of 8-week turnaround with it. That's what the company's been given. But obviously if the COVID restrictions lift right up with, cargo, then we'll be laughing. We'll actually get that back sooner. So the next update I'll do, guys, via Facebook, with it is they've got to send me a picture of my brand being put onto the actual leather just to get my okay before they go ahead and do the lot. So that's just going to be very exciting. I can't wait to see that. And obviously I'm going to post that picture as well and keep you guys updated. So keep in mind they are coming, but I'm waiting as well. I mean, because I need new gun bags myself, and I've only got the 2 prototypes here to use. The rest of my stuff is just pretty much ruined and worn out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. Also too, guys, I pick up Hank, my new pup, my new American Staffordshire Terrier. So he's come from the same breeder as what Cooper came from, which is Tradanki American Staffordshire Terriers. Now, this is why I love going with Tradanki, because, they are a very high quality breeder. And, people might ask and say, well, what's the difference? A dog is a dog. Yeah, that may be true, but when you have proper registered breeders, and I'm not talking about just backyard breeders, but people who are registered by and recognised, by the Australian Kennel Club and American Kennel Club and so forth. I mean, you pretty much are insured of getting a decent quality dog, because usually people who go into, I guess, that sort of detail, want to make sure that their dogs are the highest quality. So, what I mean by that is obviously their health and everything. Basically you can turn up to Tradanki Staffs with a handful of cash and say, hey, I want to buy a dog. Okay, that's all well and good, but you'll be interviewed and then you'll be given a response to whether or not that they believe one of their dogs is suitable for you. So, it's not as easy as just throwing your money at them and then they give you a dog. You've got to have the proper facility and lifestyle that they believe is suited to the American Staffordshire Terrier breed. So, it's good. I like seeing that sort of high standard, because then you just don't have people turn up with money just to get a big bad dog and then just treat it badly and all the rest of it. You guys know my feelings on that. So obviously that's fairly important to me. So I'll be doing a few videos obviously with Hank. He's just such a confident, strong, great character pup. Obviously I've gone and seen him in person, but I get update videos and things like that. And he's just a great looking dog, and I just can't wait to show him around here on the farm. But by the time this video comes out, I may actually have him here, but it's gonna happen very soon. On the topic of reviews, guys, continuing with that, I've also got some very interesting firearm reviews coming up. A couple of things there that's just very, very unique, caliber-wise, and also the actual make and model of a couple of firearms I'm looking at. So keep an eye out for them. If you do want to see them early, like, look, no pressure, but if you do want to see them earlier, jump on, support me via Patreon, and you can get access to all that stuff prior to the general public seeing it. So yeah, keep an eye out. We've got a heap of cool stuff coming up for you. The next question I got here is from John. He says, "G'day Ozzie, is the so-called flat shooting 204 Ruger that much more efficient than the 223 Remington? What's your thoughts on comparisons between the two calibers? I understand that 223 is easier to get a hold of and much cheaper over the counter. However, in your opinion, between the two calibers, based on the 204 40 grain projectile versus a 50 or 55 grain projectile, the 223, is there much of a difference in bullet drop at comparable distances, speeds, and kinetic energy or hitting power? Cheers, John." Well, mate, look, if we look at, let's compare the same bullet weight to start with. So if we look at factory ammo, okay, let's have a look at the Federal 204 and 223 load with the Norsler ballistic tip, okay, 40 grain ballistic tip. Now, with the 223, you've actually got around about 50 or so feet per second more speed at the muzzle over the 204, okay? Now, I've got a little bit here I've just jotted down about the ballistic coefficient, because that's obviously very important. Now, the 204 obviously being that slight thinner diameter over 223 for the same bullet weight being 40 grain, it's going to have a slightly higher BC, which is 0.239 for the 204 as opposed to 0.221 for the 223. So there's nothing in it. There really isn't anything in it. And then when you look at the bullet drop for both of those calibers using exactly the same bullet weight, honestly, it's the same all the way out to 300 odd yards. I mean, and you're not going to be shooting over that with that caliber, definitely not. So, there's really no difference. But then when you go up to the 55 grain ballistic tip in 223, obviously you start to step things up a little bit more in actual energy, where the 40 grain from the 223 and the 40 grain in the 204, very, very similar, almost identical, in kinetic energy. But when you go up to 55 grain, then obviously you're adding a bit there. So you're going to get round about that extra 100 foot-pounds of energy. Now, I did put another note here that I wanted to mention. As for bullet drop with the 55 grain 223 as opposed to the 204 using the 40 grain projectile, there's only about an inch difference at 200 yards. Okay, that's if you sight in a 0 there at 100. So the 223 will drop an inch further than what the 204 will. So keep in mind though, that's another 15 grain of bullet weight in the 223. So overall, look, I know there's some diehard 204 fans out there, but like you said, John, the price of the ammo is double the price. And if you're out, hunting with it, I mean, dead is dead. You can't tell me that a 204 is going to kill something that a 223 can't. Like, it's just not possible. They're virtually identical. So that's why I sort of lean more towards the 223. And obviously the big benefit of the 223 is the fact that you can go right up in bullet weight. So in other words, you can go right up to 75 odd grain projectiles, so you can shoot out at those, longer ranges if you like to engage in a bit more target shooting, or you've got those heavier loads there that you can, be able to take pigs and things like that more effectively with over the 204. Next question I got here is from Chris, and he says, "Hi Ozzie, I just started shooting in F class in Victoria VRA Club, and I think I have to start reloading mainly for 308 and 243. What's a mid-range full reloading kit you would stand behind? Cheers, mate." Look, as most people know, I haven't reloaded for years, mate, because what I find now is most of the factory ammunition is more than sufficient for my needs in terms of, accuracy and stopping power and all the rest of it. So for me, I don't worry about that anymore. But, from when I did reload, I mean, look, there were two real top brands, Dillon and Redding, and they were the ones that I swore by. So if you have a look at Redding, I mean, you can get a a decent press there for around about that $600 odd. The T7, have a look at that, see what you think of that, because I think that it'll probably do you very well. Obviously with F-class, accuracy and I guess like quality is going to be a big thing. So I wouldn't really go for any of the lower brands. I would stick to either Dillon or Redding, but I'm leaning more towards Redding, so you can really tailor those loads, for the best accuracy at that long range. Next question I got here is from Andrew, and he says, "Hi Ozzie, congratulations on maintaining your high standards of excellence in all your content. As a viewer, I certainly appreciate your willingness to give honest feedback with regards to the various products you review." Well, thank you, mate. I appreciate that greatly. Now to my questions. First question, I was wondering how many Cat D firearms can you own at one time on a Queensland licence for occupational feral pest control? Is this restricted to one Category D firearm only, or as many as you can justify to weapons licensing, or completely unrestricted? I'm in South Australia and regulations are slightly different for Cat D here. Okay, so I'll answer that question first, mate. Two. Okay, so for my feral pest control business, I had the Ruger SR 556 and the Ruger SR 762. So a semi-auto 223 and a semi-auto 308. Obviously with those two firearms, I could cover absolutely every feral pest you could think of here in Queensland. So yeah, two, that's the answer. Now your next question was, you're wondering if I could suggest a semi-auto 12 gauge in Cat C for feral pest control that features a shorter barrel. Most of what I find seems to be around the 28 to 30 inch range, which is far too long for the thick scrub I'll be shooting in. My optimum length would be something in the 18 to 22 inch range. Thank you for your time, Ozzie. I really appreciate it, Andrew. Definitely, mate. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it, my Benelli M4 review. Like, honestly, that's what I use for feral pest control here on the farm. It's Cat C, so magazine, tubular magazine, that is, holds 5 rounds, then one up the spout, so you've got 6 in total. It's still Cat C. Brilliant, 18.5 inch barrel, and it's absolutely made for feral pest control. If you want to even go shorter, they do sell a 14 inch barrel as well. So, you can get it right down, because originally the Benelli M4, was made by Benelli for the US Marine Corps. So obviously it wasn't made with that long barrel for, like dove or pigeon shooting or clay target shooting, you know what I mean? And that's what I found previously when I had the Winchester SX3. Fantastic shotgun, great shotgun, but big long barrel on it. So yeah, when you're getting around in the scrub, that sort of thing really gets in the way. You want something that's just around about that 18 inches around there, I find is absolutely optimal. So have a look, Benelli M4 review, you should really enjoy it. Next question I got here is from Steve, and he says, in recent times we have seen law-abiding firearm owners have their livelihoods and reputations trampled on by politicians and high-ranking authoritarian figures. I know for a fact that you have pushed hard alongside the Shooters Union to have restrictions lifted, and I applaud and thank you for your efforts. My question is, would an amalgamation of all shooting organisations be a step in the right direction and make us a voice worth listening to for the politicians? All right, so yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, Stephen, because I certainly have quite a few personal experiences and feelings on this. Now, this is the problem. There's a lot of organisations that are around, and quite simply, they're only interested in looking after what their main membership base is. So, for example, with the SSAA, like I'm a life member with them. Most people know that. Now, obviously, they'll go in there for sporting shooters and want to retain the right to be able to shoot on a range, but then when it comes to other matters like feral pest control and farming, that sort of thing, that's not their arena. So you really don't hear much of a voice in that sort of area. Look, I get that, and yeah, I mean, look, as a member, I've been critical of them in the past, in the sense of I've certainly made suggestions, but nothing ever seems to happen. And a lot of people have been, I guess, disheartened by that. Now, I definitely believe they've got a place, and I don't hate them, don't get me wrong. But for what my, I guess, preference is on actually being more on the front foot and getting out there and doing a lot more, that's why I support the Shooters Union so much. Now, keep in mind, like, I'm not on the Shooters Union committee or board, or I don't have anything to do with them other than being a life member and making some suggestions on perhaps areas that they need to fight in, and they certainly listen. And another reason that I really do support them is, the amount of friends that I've had that have had issues with weapons licensing with, license applications. I've said to them, look, join the Shooters Union, send an email to them and ask them for some help. And you know what? Every single one of them that have done that have had an answer, like, within a week from weapons licensing, and they've been given their license or their permit's finally been approved. They just sort it out because they have their representatives who go into weapons licensing and say, hey, look, we've got a member that's got a problem here. This needs to be sorted out. I don't know of any other shooting organisation in Australia that does that. I honestly don't. I mean, if there are, like, by all means, comment below. But, I've never ever seen that here in Queensland. Definitely not. And that's why I take my hat off to them, and that's why I support them so much. So then when it comes to legal challenges, I mean, look, I help promote their idea of having a legal defence fund. And I know what they do because, I mean, look, they were helping James Ryder out with that suppressor case. Now, that's still ongoing. He's still waiting for that rejection so that it can be taken to a proper court and fought. And that's where obviously more legal funds, will be used. They supported another farmer with Cat H being able to retain that. When weapons licensing tried to take it off them. So there's a lot of stuff like that they do, and people just don't realise or give them enough credit, especially when a lot of them are volunteers. That's the other big thing about Shooters Union. It's not all paid staff. So that's, you can see where their passion for it is definitely there, and it's definitely present. And that's why I support them, But the problem is, a lot of organisations, only look after their certain interests, and they don't look after, all. And that's where I really do like the Shooters Union, because it doesn't matter whether you're a sports shooter, a target shooter, or you're a recreational hunter, or you're a farmer, or a feral pest controller, or a security guard, or, a firearms instructor. They will cover and fight for all of your rights, for all those different areas of shooting. So that's why I support them. And my view on all of it, mate, is that people really need to get behind the Shooters Union so that all of us can be included and fought for. And the more people that get behind them, the more and more they expand. I mean, I'm surprised because all the time, I'll speak with like Graham Park, the president, and, they've got this new initiative going on. Oh, look, we're doing this now. We're going to try to go from this angle, or we're doing this, we're doing that. There's always something going on. They're active. And that's, once again, why I support them. So I guess to answer your question fully, mate, I believe we've already got an organisation that represents all of us. All it takes now is more people to get behind them. And I know a hell of a lot of people are getting behind them, especially after seeing what happened here in Queensland with the gun shop closures with coronavirus. They were absolutely on the front foot with that. And once again, they just, I guess, encourage more people to support them. I really don't think that a lot of the big organisations will come together because they just don't want to join other organisations. And the problem with the shooting industry is there's so much infighting. And a lot of that comes down to people getting their noses out of joint. What can I say, mate? I mean, I wish it was different, but it's not. So the reality is, in my view, you go with an organisation who's going to fight for you. And in my view, that's Shooters Union. So the next question I got here is a bit of an unusual one. It's from Walter. Now, guys, Walter is over in the USA because I had to clarify this because I thought, is this just a G up, this question? But no, it's a legitimate question, and Walter watches Ozzie Reviews from the States. So he says here, I came across an older TV series, McLeods Daughters, and it looks interesting. From my distant view, I consider you a source for all things Australian. So is this series binge-worthy? Well, mate, look, I've never followed it, so I don't know any of the character names and that, but I know it was very, very popular here in Australia from sort of the early 2000s. It ran for several years and obviously showed a lot of the Australian landscape. So, look, my advice is if you enjoy it, watch it. But I can't tell you about it because I really haven't watched it, mate. I don't know. So perhaps people who are watching this Q&A who are fans of McLeods Daughters, can you please comment below and perhaps open up a bit more conversation there for Walter. Next question I got here is from Mick, and he says, "Hi Ozzie, I'm having some trouble sighting in the ghost rings on my new Henry 3030 and was thinking of either adding a scope or a red dot. Just interested what you would recommend in either, and if a scope, what type, maybe a 3 to 9 by 40. Cheers, Mick." Well, mate, it comes down to the price point, but as I've said numerous times, my benchmark for optics is Loophole, because obviously made in the USA. If you have a problem with them, they have the actual Loophole repair factory here in Brisbane, so you can send it in and get it repaired free of charge, obviously, if it's a warranty issue. So, that would be my recommendation. Like, go for like the Loophole VX Freedom 3 to 9 by 40 if that's what you wanted. But you're going to be looking about that $400, $450 for that. But if you want to put a red dot on it, honestly, there's only one red dot as far as I'm concerned that you'd be looking at, and that would be the Aimpoint Micro, because obviously it's nice and compact. The H1, which is the older generation, but absolutely perfect. I ran them on my SR762 and SR556, semi-auto 223 and 308. Just a brilliant optic. Never had a problem with it. Now, you can find them secondhand for around about that $500. Brand new, I think you're looking at about $700 to $800 somewhere there. So, not ultimately cheap, but mate, it's something that will last you an absolute lifetime on that 3030. Next question I got here is from Rowan. He says, "Hi Ozzie, I'm wanting to set up a clay target pigeon shoot near one of the cottages on our place in New South Wales. The ideal spot has us facing away from the cottage and across an open paddock. However, beyond that paddock is a main road which is 680 metres or 750 yards downrange. I have real doubts about any of our 7.5 shot sizes or 28 gram loads reaching anywhere near that distance. Obviously, I don't want to let any shot go beyond the fence. I feel safe in knowing that the shot won't make it that far, but can you give me your opinion on the estimated distance for those loads, or shot at anything up to 45 degrees, where will it go to ground? Cheers, Ozzie, Rowan." Well, mate, all you need to do is look at the range templates, and here in Queensland, I believe it's 205 metres, so I would have thought 250, but yeah, that's what you'll find a lot of the time the range templates are for shotguns. So in other words, 250 metres of distance there, and it'll pull it up. So 680 metres, mate, you're not going to have a problem there. But what you probably look at doing is get in touch with the New South Wales Firearms branch there and just ask them, look, what's your range template for shotguns? And they'll probably tell you the same. So then you know if you're going to use a shotgun on your property there, that you're doing it safely and within the guidelines. Next question I got here is from John. He says, "Hi Ozzie, just wondering if you could recommend a good air rifle. I'd prefer something simple and not really considering a PCP. I'm currently looking at 2 different air rifles. I'm after something that's accurate for rats, birds, rabbits near to the house. I've already got a 22 LR. Cheers, John." Well, you're probably going to guess what I'm going to recommend, mate, and that's use the 22 with something like CCI Quiet or Winchester Zeds, a little lightweight 29 grain projectile that's well under the standard velocity of a 22 LR cartridge. So, that's probably what I would do to save, money, and you're going to have the same noise out of those Zeds as what you do with an air rifle. So that'd probably be where I would be headed. But as for air rifles, mate, look, it's not really my realm of experience. I mean, I've had a couple of the standard break action ones, and they perform fine. I mean, look, you can get yourself a Walther. I remember reviewing a couple of them a few years ago, and you know, they perform fine. So for distances with air rifles, look, that's my recommendation, mate. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not an expert on air rifles, so if anyone's watching this and right into their air rifles, please feel free to comment below to help John out. Next question I got here is from Pete, and he says, "Hi Ozzie, I've been giving some of your cooking videos a go. Love the ultimate hamburger recipe and the southern fried rabbit recipe. Do you plan on doing any more in the future? If so, what kind of game meats?" Well, mate, I'm glad you enjoyed it. You know, it seems to have a small but strong following, those cooking videos, which obviously is a lot of fun making them and sharing them with you. So yeah, I do. I'd like to do stuff with kangaroo and also duck. You know, it's obviously I'd have to go and buy that here in Queensland, because unfortunately we can't shoot either of them, you know, obviously without a permit for kangaroos, that is. So it would be easier for me just to go and get some kangaroo meat from the butcher and show you from there. But yeah, they're the two that I'd like to do, kangaroo and duck. Next question I got here is from Troy, and he says, "Hi Ozzie, I just purchased a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 knife from your review with the S110V steel. Mate, it holds a ridiculous edge, and I just wanted to say thanks for your honest review. It helped me greatly. My question is, are there any other Para 2s you recommend with high-end steel, as I'm looking for a gift for my son's birthday?" Honestly, mate, go for the M390. It's brilliant. It's got the red scales. Now, you probably have to go to eBay USA to be able to get a hold of some of them, because they were a sprint run or a you know, just a limited edition. So yeah, M390 is just a fantastic premium steel. It's just awesome. I put it right there with the S110V. It's probably got a little bit of an edge on that in my view, just with overall benefits. I just find it a really good steel. So easy to work with. I find, you know, it's easy enough to sharpen up with some decent sharpening stones, and just the longevity that you'll get from that S110V. So yeah, they're just an awesome knife, aren't they? And I don't blame you for getting one, because they're just so practical and you can use them in so many different ways. They're just a fantastic knife. So yeah, great to hear that, mate. And I hope that, you know, you do well with that recommendation and get a hold of one of those M390s. All right, guys, that's it for this month's Q&A. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode.